Hello, Francisca. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
The unanimous Focus 11 winner. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How was your weekend?
My weekend, I was at Afro Fest yesterday. It was nice.
Oh, nice. That's amazing. What tell me about it. What's going on?
Afro Fest, you see the pen? As I told you,
I know. Yeah,
I
yeah.
got when I examined, I said, hey, this is interesting. And the title says Toronto Community Crisis Services, TCCS, call 211. They said
Oh,
if you have any mental issues, call 211.
mental. Yeah, the mind assistance program. Right? For sure. Oh, we have Rahel, a PJ. David, how are you doing today? Thanks for joining. If she can hear us, I don't know if she can hear us, but
Sorry, sorry. I went to grab something to put on. I'm in the middle of cooking, but I wanted to at
okay,
least come on video first.
that's
I'm
amazing.
preparing my soup for the
Okay, nice,
yeah.
nice, nice.
Yeah, no,
Doing good?
I'm doing well. Just preparing for the yeah, just preparing for the week and getting the meals and all of that prepped because I have to go to work tomorrow and the kids will be home. So all the
Yeah,
mom duties and wife duties, you know?
yeah, yeah, for sure. That's amazing. Francisca, I had an interview over at Hill a few days ago, 2 days ago, or something like that. She's deep
Friday.
into communication. And Francisca actually had a GPS webinar that she hosted on us on public speaking, right? And public
Oh,
speaking, yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. And she was going deep into a lot of the principles that you adhere to as well.
Oh, okay, that's wonderful. Yeah, because even with doing the effective communication, sometimes people ask me about specifically public speaking and so forth. Um, so yeah, there's
Yeah,
definitely a connection there.
everything aligns. Hello, Mylin. How are you?
I am good. I am good.
All right, Mylin, are we gonna see you or? Yeah, so okay, great. So as usual, GPS session, we like to go deep into, just things that are growing of the mind, things for us to think about and things for us to expand on, right? And today, earlier today, I had to go check one of my properties, and the tenant that's in there, they said that we asked them why they're because they're leaving their lease is up, right? But they extended a few months, and then we asked, how come they're planning to leave, and they said, oh, just they need more space, and they said we need more space, and yeah, definitely that's understandable. Definitely need more space. Yeah, all the best. They kept the property in good condition. I'm happy about that. Right. We just went to go inspect the place, and yeah, it was in really good space. But then it's like, that's definitely why what we have to go and really talk about, in this GPS session, because space is something that a lot of times we may just overlook, but it's so important in this world because it's everywhere around us. Space is pretty much that foundation where information is held, right? If we look at the image right now, we're seeing outer space, right? Why is it called space, right? And it's because space because the opportunities are endless, right? We're still exploring space, right? They had an image of a black hole, and now there's actually new images of black hole because the old image that they had is just from the angle that they were actually zooming in on it. But from a next angle, you can see it's not just a circle, it's actually like some kind of like big spiral thing, right? But it just shows that we're still exploring space, right? And then also at night, see, when you look out in space, you're looking out there and then you really get a glance at your potential, right? Because we're all one. We're all connected to this space. So if we're connected to this space, as we go and we look out in the space, then we really get to know that our potential is unlimited, right? And that's something that we really got to understand, because if we don't understand that our potential is unlimited, then it's always us that's self-sabotaging ourselves and limiting ourselves, right? When we go out and we look out and we see our nature, you know, and we're just glancing at this nature, you know, this thing that's in front of us. You know, this is all space. It's all that space that is consuming this earth that we're living in, right? But everything that we're seeing outside of us, there is an interpretation inside of us, right? Like we could see this image and all of us can interpret it different. We could all feel different. We could all, but it's all about that connection that we have with what's outside of us. What is internal is a reflection of what is external, right? So this space this talk about space, it's not something that's so minor where it's just, oh, yeah, you know, in terms of, you know, the tenant saying they need more space, it's understandable, because as we have space, it lets us understand that, wow, there's so much more that's out there, right? And space is always expanding, and it's always required for us to expand, right? So if you are stuck in the past, right, or if you're just staying the same, you're actually going backwards, because we live in an ever-expanding universe. This world is always expanding. There's always something new that's happening. And if we're not growing ourselves with this space, then we're actually going backwards. Because everything else is growing, everything else is expanding. So we should not be staying the same. Who you are today should not be who you are tomorrow. You should expand. If you look back a year from now, just analyze, are you in the same position? And many people are, because they're not utilizing the space. You know, they're in that comfort zone to where they just want to be where they are. It's not that they want to be where they are. It's more that fear that kicks in that does not allow them to expand into the space. But the space is out there for us to expand on, right? Let's go deeper into space, right? Look at your keyboard. Why is it that the space bar is the biggest key on the keyboard, right? Like these are all things that let's pay attention to. Why is it why is it that every time we write a word or we read a word, there has to be a space in between, right? It just shows the importance of space, right? The space bar is so big because it's one of the most important keys on your computer, right? Or on your phone or wherever, because you have to keep pressing it, right? So the same thing should be a reflection of our life, where we should adapt to the space that's around us. We should grow in the space that's around us. Right here, the interview that we did, it was in my office at my brokerage, right? And that room that you see, no one uses it. I see the room and I'm like, yeah, I gotta utilize this space, right? And I'm grateful. That's where I host the Wealth Talk podcast. And for when I started hosting it, you know, all the different agents in my brokerage, they're asking, oh, can I get on? Can I come on? My broker record is excited. He was one of my first guests on the thing. He said, oh, wow, like, you know, oh, I love what you're doing here. You know, like, it's just utilizing space, right? There's a story, if you're familiar with hip hop, Rockefeller, they're big, they were one of the biggest labels. Jay-Z, he's a big artist, right? And in Rockefeller, as they were growing, they were signing other artists, right? They signed State Property, it consists of Beanie Siegel, like, these different groups. They signed, different artists signed this group called the Diplomats, right? And what happened was, with the Diplomats, when they got signed to the Rockefeller, Cameron, he tells the story. There was a closet, like pretty much a place that was being used as a closet, and they just had like from all their old promotional material and all this kind of stuff that was in there, right? And it's kind of used as storage, right? It was a storage room. And Cameron, when he came in, he's like, we need to set up an office, so they cleared everything out of there. They set up some desks, set up some phones, and then they started making calls and getting their business going. And then what happened was, the other groups that were there, who've been there for like a year plus and been walking past that room all this time, they went to Jay-Z and they were upset. They're like, oh yeah, these guys are taking over the office. You guys gave them an office. They did all this. Like, so they were in a sense, envious that these diplomat guys had an office and they didn't have one. But the thing is, it was always there. It's just the space wasn't utilized to efficiency, right? And when Cameron tells the story, it's years later, but this is one of the primary reasons why this Rockefeller label broke up, because these guys, diplomats, took over and they blew up, and the other groups that were part of Rockefeller didn't blow up, and they thought there was favoritism. But no, it wasn't favoritism. It was Cameron utilizing the space, Cameron expanding, seeing the space and utilizing the space, right? So that's a big thing, right? And when we go in space and we talk about space, let's look at our hands. Why is it that we have all this space in between our fingers? How come our hands are not like this? Why are our hands not like this, right? We have this space, and look at the difference between our fingers and our thumb. Why? Why did God design us this way? For us to have such space. If we're like this, how are we holding things? We're holding my water bottle like this. Right? I'll be like, hey, hi, shaking people's hand. Hey, you can do certain things, but you can't do much. But when you're able to create that space in your hands, you could do so many things. Without my thumb, I can barely even carry this bottle. I need to be able to wrap it around. I need that space to be able to wrap it around, right? So these things are designed, like, and if we look external, we see, what's going on. We see this space and we see the utilization of space. Then we start to pay more mind to it. Then when we're in situations and we see opportunities of space, we can expand in them, right? Then talking about our grip, right? The precision in our grip, right? With like how you cannot pinch anything. You cannot grab anything. My phone, I could not grab it like this without my thumb, without that space being there, right? I could probably go like this, yes, for sure, but it makes it so much easier to be able to go and do this, right? With precision, right? And precision, is key, right? When writing words, they only make sense when they do have space, right? Look, I wrote it twice, right? I wrote it with spaces, and then I wrote it without spaces. When you read it, the second one it's not as clear. There's no space. There's no space that's there. Everything's all jumbled up together, right? But we look up top in the sentence, and we could read it so clearly, right? Even in a traffic jam, there is space between cars, right? Break time, right? When you're working, when you're doing whatever you're doing, it's let's say you're a go getter, right? Eventually you want that break. You want that space, right? You want to have a break time to reflect, break time to just sit down, relax, rest your feet, whatever the case may be, right? So this space shows that this space has such significance all around our lives, right? And we really got to pay attention to that and actually look at the space. I want to pause right now before I continue to go on. Does anyone have anything to expand on what we've been discussing so far?
Well, I'd like to talk about this even in terms of like a communication aspect. Whenever you send a message, right, whether you're speaking or showing a picture, whatever it is, but verbal, nonverbal, space can be necessary to get the feedback, right, to allow people to reflect on your message or act on the message or not act, as I said, is also feedback. So it's also necessary to help the receivers so that your message is received as well, hopefully as accurately as you would hope, just in terms of how they respond to it. So I can see how space is necessary, and sometimes people use space for like dramatic emphasis on something, or to give their audience an opportunity to kind of grasp what they just said. So for sure.
That's really deep. Thank you so much, Rahel. Got everyone take in what she said. When you're having a conversation with someone, you have to give space for them to respond, for them to really take in what you're saying, right? That's major. Space is all around, like it's all around our lives. We're not paying attention. Like she said, for them to grasp what you're saying, even if sometimes you want to have a joke or something like that, right? Sometimes they'll say the joke, like comedians, they'll say the joke and then they'll stop, they'll be quiet, they'll just give space for people to laugh, right? If they keep going, then they don't allow that space for the laughter, right? So seasoned comedians, they know after they have the punchline, they're quiet. Everyone's laughing, right? And it's the same thing in communication. We go and we say something, and then we stop. Sales is something that I study and I'm really deep in, and that's one of the biggest sales things. When you go and you go for the ask, if you're going for the close, you'll go for the close, and then you're silent until the other person responds. However long it takes. Right, and most people, when they're doing sales, they may be nervous and then they'll say something they'll say something right after, and they'll keep saying what they're doing is they're talking themselves out of the sale because they're not allowing for that space. Thank you, Rahel. Anyone else have anything to add?
I want to say something.
Please.
Yeah, space is very important. In Western world, we talk about personal space. When I was in China, the Asians, when they talk to you, they come right in your face. So I had to always move back. So they said, teacher, why is it every time we talk, you move back? I said, in Western world, you're occupying my personal space. I'll give you an example. There was a student once who came up right in front of the teacher, and the teacher said, you want to kiss me? Why are you coming so close? Move back. I need my personal space. So everybody needs their personal space, otherwise you are invading their privacy.
That's deep, because we're even going to get into that, right? And that's so true. Guys, look around your house. When renovations are done, when builders are doing work, they always leave space, right? The tiles on your floor, look at the bricks. The bricks, they have to leave space, and they don't lay them on top of each other. They need that space. They don't lay them right against each other. The tiles, they need that space, right? So it's ever around us, and more right now. It's a matter of taking awareness, concrete. If you're to do a sidewalk and you're to make it all concrete without the space in between, what happens is it starts to crack because it's expanding and retracting. And if you're not allowing for it to have space to do that, then it just cracks. So anytime, that's why in the sidewalk, you see them, they have to create space in between the sidewalk, right? Over here, we see this boxing match. They have their rounds, right? Each round, they go in, they box, but in between, they have to have that space to take water, for their breather, for insight from their coach, so the coach can assess. They can assess the situation to tell them, even for them to assess the situation, right? Space is needed. So, and we see in boxing, they always have the face off, right? And the face off, they're like Francisca said, they're in each other's personal space, right? But then when the boxing starts, they know they won. Once they got that space, they can knock that person down. They separate themselves and they create more of that space, right? And this is what Francisco was talking about. You need your personal space, right? So personal space is based on your personal relation with the person that you have that space with. Obviously, the more comfortable you feel with them, the more closer they can come into your space, right? So we have intimate space, right? Where we see these two, they're intimate, they're close, they want to be as close to each other as possible, right? But then we have that personal space boundary, like what Francisca was talking about, where people in your face, you just have to kind of like draw back a little bit because they're not in that intimate space where you feel comfortable with them being right up close to you, right? And then you have your social space, right? Which is still good space, right? You feel comfortable with the person, but it's not as close as the person that you know as more personal or intimate. And then we have the public space, right? Your public space, that's where, everyone is around, people are, around an area, so that space you still feel comfortable, but they're not in your social, personal, or intimate space. Right? So space, going deep into space, it's a big thing. It's a big thing, and it's all around us, right? And the more that we pay attention to it, then we start to really appreciate it more, right? Because they're the pieces to the puzzle, and that's pretty much what this GPS session, what we want to do. We want to give pieces to the puzzle. We're navigating life every day, right? We get to experience this beautiful thing, right? And as we're navigating, it's about our awareness. As this universe is expanding, it's very important that we expand our minds, right? And we really tune into this information because we utilize this every day. It's around us. But if you're unaware and if it's not in the forefront of your mind, then you miss it. It go by you. It will go over your head. You may not connect with it, and there's opportunities that you will miss because you're not aware of them, right? So what we want to do is fill in those gaps, right? Fill in the gaps because all this space is there for us to fill in the gaps, right? I want everyone to, just be honest, and just think about it. Every time you have space, it always gets filled. Most of the time, the space gets filled. How do your closets look? When you first moved in, it was empty space, right? And then because we had that space, we were able to fill that space. We're able to fill in the gaps. Ladies, how your purses look, right? How do your purses look, right? You have that space in that bag, and then you'll find things to put inside that purse, right? Even with our phones, right? My phones, I've gone through so many phones because of the space, right? And now, they have, things where they allow us to get more space, right? But your space, your data's used up. Why is your data used up? Your data's used up because that space, you were actually filling that space. You were filling in the gap, right? You have cutlery, you have your cup, right? The plate that you have on, you have the plates, and the plates are to be filled. There to be something is to be filled on these empty plates in your empty cup, right? It's meant to be filled, right? So as we have this space that's available to us, we must fill this space, right? We see this beautiful home over here. The home started off empty. It started off as a drawing, right? So we're looking at this floor plan and we're seeing all this space, right? And as when we move in, it's like you're looking around and you're looking for things to fill in these spaces, right? Every day it's in your mind to fill these spaces. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. You just fill the space, and hey, sometimes it gets to the point where you don't have enough space. And then you may feel like, well, you know what? I don't have enough space. We need to move, right? And that's what happened in my case. In my old house, there was a 3-bedroom home, and at that time, one of the rooms is my office. So me and my wife, we had our one room, and then my older son had one room, and then the 3rd bedroom was my office. And then we had another child. So the child's in our room, and he's in a crib, but he's growing. He's growing. He's filling the space of this crib, and he's getting too big for this crib. He needs to move on to a bigger space, right? And we were aware of that. So we're like, we got to move because I need my office, right? And at that time, that's what started our search for a new home, right? And thank God I'm in that new home right now, and I'm in my office right now, and we have the space for my son. And there's another room which was there before our daughter, who is here right now, but the space was there for her. It was there for her. I was waiting on her. She actually called that space before she came here. While she was in spirit, she said, "Okay, I'm coming. Make sure you guys get the extra room for me." Right? But that's what it is. It's the space, and it's there to be filled. Imagine a house that's unfurnished. A house, you have all these rooms, right? And you leave it unfurnished. It's only a house. It's not a home yet, right? It's only a home once you fill the space. Let's create some space right now. And wealth creators, please talk to us. Carol.
I don't know what to say. I'm just listening.
Okay, that's good.
I'm just listening. I don't know how to say whatever you say makes sense, but and I could see the opposite each time, the difference.
Nice. Hilda, please add to the session.
What was your question? Because I'm not really too clear on that. I know you're talking about space and when we don't have space.
So, I just wanted to take a little break in the session, to just see what's going on in your mind as we're going through the session, in terms of space, or anything else that you want to add, or maybe there's an experience that you've had, related to something that related to space that you can share with our wealth creators.
Yeah, I'm pretty terrible in leaving my spaces empty. I noticed that. So even my bag, when you talk about bag, I was like, oh, mine's pretty full. So it's pretty much like that. When you do see space, I think sometimes you also do it like unconsciously, and you're like, all right, well, I can put it here, I can put it here. And then in my case, I just got, like, I've been doing renovations and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, now I can move this here, I can do this here. So with space and emptiness, I guess it's kind of like filling the cup, right? Like you don't want to leave it empty at the end of the day. You want to make sure that you also fill that cup. So for me, I don't know. I just know that space doesn't stay empty in my life. And sometimes, yeah, you do need it to be a little bit, you know, empty to see. Like even when I feel like sometimes when there's too much going on, you can also feel like chaotic, like, you know, so you need to have that open space so you can actually maybe see your vision. Right. So like even my desk at home, I work from home. So like my desk, like from Friday, I was like, no, I gotta move things around. You know, I've got my vitamins, I've got this here, I've got that here. I'm like, no, I gotta separate certain things from this space in order for you to see. So I think that's also important.
Yeah, that's really
You guys
deep.
hear me? Because my
That's
thing
really
just
deep. Yeah, we definitely hear you. That's really deep. That's really deep right there. Clearing the space, right? Clearing and making space, right? Because things are filling up, and it's like a replenishment, right? It's like a replenishment, and doesn't it feel good when you do that too? Like you see the stuff piling up, right?
It feels amazing because then it's like also like a it's kind of like you took a layer off your shoulder, like, you know what I mean? Because when it's too chaotic, when there's too much going on in one space, you kind of feel, sometimes I get anxiety, you know what I mean? Because there's just too much going on, you're looking at too much at one time. And so again, that focus is not there, right? Now you can't really work in that space because you've literally like pretty much like stored everything in that space, you know what I mean? So like you don't see, like, and I think that's important when you look at it in that way. Yeah, there's space, but it doesn't mean that every space needs to be filled up.
Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. Thank you for sharing. Mylin.
Yeah, pretty much what Hilda said. Just for example, you are working, you have to have space so that you can process everything, as well as when you are dealing with your day-to-day lives, you have to have a space so that you have a progress, and then at the same time you are productive in your life.
That's so true, right? Like you want to be productive, but sometimes to be productive, you need that space, right? People talk about the being burnt out, right? Because you're going, but if you allow yourself some space, if you allow yourself to, you know, really get that reflection, it's just like cleaning out your desk or your purse or your closet or whatever the case may be, right? Then it's like a replenishment that's happening, right? And then eventually it fills up again, right? And then you take that space again, right? And then you take that space again, and then it fills up again, right? And you know that's the key thing on space. So it's that's key information that you guys are given. Chat, you have anything to add? Hello, chat. Chat, are you on here? All right, we'll keep going. So one more
Can I
time.
ask something? Sorry.
Oh yeah, please, Rahel, go ahead, please.
Today's Sunday, so I'm taking people to church. So there's a scripture that talks about like I'm just summarizing, a person whose home was a mess and they cleaned it up, but because the place was empty, they said that, like, it was Jesus telling the story. He was talking about like our home being our body and being filled with good spirit or bad spirit. So he was just saying somebody had like a bad spirit and they cleaned themselves up, but he used it in terms of like a home. And when they clean up their home, which is their self, their spirit, and they didn't fill it with good things, then the evil that they had in them came back, and it came back worse. So I think, like, in filling space, it's also important to utilize the space for what you intend to utilize it for, or else it will be used for something you probably don't want it to be used for, and it can be worse, You know what I mean? So I think that's important to mention as well.
That's big time. That's so big time. Because there's so much that's out there that wants to take our space. And with the map book and the Mind Assistance program, that's one of the reasons why it's so key to be plugged in every day. Because if you're not, and let's say you turn on the TV and the news is on, your mind's polluted. Your mind space is filled with someone that got shot yesterday. It's about, like all kinds of stuff that, you don't want in your mind. But like what Rahel said, if you don't fill it with goodness, if you don't fill it with righteous stuff, then there's bad stuff that will be glad to fill in your space. Right? And that's so true. That is so true. Thank you for sharing that. Francisca, it looked like you had something to add.
Yes, I wanted to also say about space, when you're doing vision boards or dream boards or abundance wall, you cannot clutter it, because I was reading somewhere, if it's too cluttered and too crowded, then your life will become too crowded. You got to leave some space on the vision board so that you can breathe. It's very important. Otherwise, if you put too many pictures, too many things, it's cluttered. Like you go into somebody's home, sometimes it's too many things on the wall. For decoration, you got to leave some walls bare. You can't just put, some people have pictures on every corner of the wall, and it is so crowded. I know designs. I have an eye, and when I see things, I got that from my mother. People used to ask my mother, "Oh, Tessa, can you come and look at my house and tell me how I can fix it?" She said, "Okay, this seems to be too crowded. Remove this, remove that." Some people's houses are too crowded, too many things on the wall. So you got to leave space so that it will look nicer and neater too.
Thank you so much, Francisca. That is so true. Like even right now, I have a house that's coming on the market, and it was exactly that. Like there's pictures everywhere. Like it was too cluttered. And they have to be cluttered. They have to be cluttered, right? And even sometimes when there's too much, it looks like there's not when there's too much that's happening inside the place, it makes the place look smaller.
Yes. I even went to somebody's home. As we entered, he had about 20 diplomas on the wall, 20 degrees. Who does that? That was kind of a turn off. About 20, the whole wall. Put that in your office. Don't, all expo. As you enter, you see plastered all over the wall. I just smile.
No, that's deep. That's deep. That's what I'm saying. And I love the different, aspects that we're touching on space, right? Because it allows us to have a universal perspective, right? Universal perspective means, we touch on we're touching on a topic, but we're looking at it at all different angles, and they all relate to each other, right? And that's pretty much what's happening, in this world. And what's happening in this world, and we get into space. The richest people in this world, what are they most into? Space exploration, right? Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, all of them, they all have spaceships. They all want to explore space, right? It just shows that, because when you're on that, in terms of with their mindset, they understand that there's unlimited potential. There's so much that's out there that we haven't even reached the tipping point, right? We're on just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's happening right now, and there's so much more expansion, right? And yes, these guys are multi-billionaires, but it's the same with us. Where you're at right now, there's so much more. There's so much more out there for you, right? So, because that space is out there. You'll go in a meeting tomorrow. You'll go in, just everything that you're doing. You're expanding the space. You're covering more of the space. The people that you meet, the situations that you go through, right? Everything is there for you to explore space, right? So space exploration, yes, we talk about outer space, but we also have space exploration as we're here in this world. How are you exploring the space? Right? How are you, when you're going out, are you in a state of gratitude where you get to go to this new experience, get to meet this new person, or you get to go to this new event? And, you know, when you're there, are you bored or are you excited? Because you understand that you're expanding your space, you're exploring the space that's around you, right? There's a new discovery that you're going to run into, right? We're thinking macro and micro, right? So macro, they're going out in space because they want to explore, they want to know the new things that are out in the world. But the same thing with you. You go to that meeting, are you exploring? Are you in a space exploration? Are you recognizing that you're in a space where your life will change in that, whatever that is? It could be a meeting with 5 people in that room. But are you in a space of exploration, or are you in a space of, okay, I'm just gonna go there? Francisca, I see you go to so many events. That's amazing, because you go there and you go there with the insight of exploration. You know, then you're gonna have a blast every time you go, because it's like you're gonna meet all new people, you're gonna learn all new things, you're gonna, you know, all these things, like the pen that you got, you know, that matches the Wealth Creator pen. You know, that's an experience. What feeling did it give to you, right? It may have ignited me. God's sending us signs all the time, right? And signs of alignment. You know, we could see them through numerology. Like if we see certain numbers lined up, that's one thing. But something like what you seen, Francisca, with the 2 pens, that shows that you're in alignment. The path that you're on right now is the right path, right? But are you recognizing that, right? This is what exploration is, right? So we see these big wigs, they're going out and they're exploring space, but we're also exploring space. Right.
I have a question, please.
Yes.
Who was the third man? There was Jeff Sir Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, and the third person with the glasses is who?
No, he's Jeff Bezos. So
okay,
he's
sorry.
the owner of Amazon. The person in the middle is Elon Musk. Elon Musk, he owns Tesla.
Okay, Tesla.
He owns also SpaceX. They're they have rocket ships that are going going to Mars, and they're actually partnered with NASA, because NASA originally, when they were sending rockets out into space, they were sending the rockets, and then the boosters that were sending the rockets out, they would land in the Atlantic Ocean, and then they would have to go and remake new rockets to send out a next rocket. But Elon Musk, with his vision, is that he feels we need to be a multi-planet species and we should be living on Mars as well. But with his insight like that, he said we cannot be building these billion-dollar rockets and just dumping them in the ocean. We got to be able to reuse them. So he came up with a booster that actually boosts out the rocket ship, and then it lands back on Earth, and then you can reuse it again. So they've been, since this innovation, NASA partnered with them, and they're sending stuff out in space like all the time, because it doesn't cost as much, right? So, you know, and for this, obviously, you have to be able to expand your conscious awareness, right? And that's how we get into our subconscious mind, right? With this image over here, this is an image of the mind, right? Because most people, when they think the mind, they think the brain, right? But our mind is not our brain. You know, our mind is our connection with source. Our mind is more on a spiritual than it is physical, right? If our mind was the brain, then when you cut the brain open, you'll be able to see our ideas. You'll be able to see our thoughts, but you can't see any of that. These are all spiritual things that are coming into our consciousness, right? And, you know, as we connect with our conscious, our subconscious mind, right, our subconscious mind is what moves us to be on the GPS session. It what moves us to meet with those people we're supposed to be meeting. It's what moves us to get that new idea that we've been planning of, that new business opportunity, that new business idea. You know, all of these things are being sent to us, right? But it's a matter of, okay, are we making this submerge in our subconscious mind, or are we just letting it pass through, right? Because if it's submerged in our subconscious mind, then our body is going to carry us to that, right? You trust in God, and God will send you all the things that you need to be a part of. But are you in a space of exploration? Are you open-minded? Like, do you know that you're being guided, right? Some people will have an idea and like, oh wow, that's an amazing idea, but then a week will go by, 2 weeks will go by, and they didn't write it down anywhere, and it's past, it's gone. But then someone else is going to pick that up through, you know, through consciousness, because it's meant to be out in this expanding world, in this expanding universe, right? And in our seasons, if we look at our seasons, you know, our seasons require that space as well. If like, of course, there's different parts of the world. Okay, no problem. Right after this. Okay. So us looking here in Canada, we have these 4 seasons, right? And in life, we have these seasons as well, right? We go through waves, right? So we know that you know, spring, summer, winter, fall, right? But waves are all throughout our lives all the time, right? There's right now we're sending sound waves to each other. You know, and with the waves, we see the waves moving up and down, up and down. So even in our lives, and we're talking about this, right? You may be, you know, on a go, but then maybe sometimes you need to step back for a second. And sometimes if it's not you that's stepping back, God's gonna make you step back and reflect, right? Or you may go through a circumstance, situation that seems like things ain't going your way, right? But that's just the waves that are required for you to be able to go your way, right? But sometimes people will go and they'll feel these other waves, the waves, and they'll feel like, okay, no, I'm stuck. I don't want to move forward. But just have an understanding that, you know, we need this. Sometimes we need that space. We need to set back, you know, in order for us to propel, right? And us having that understanding, you know, and we understand that everything moves through waves, right? Then you'll be moving. Understand, okay, all right, right now this is that situation. I know this may be a paradigm, whatever the case may be, but I know I'm on the right track. I know I'm moving towards where I'm going, right? Because yes, you know, things can be frustrating at times. Sometimes you feel overwhelmed. Sometimes you feel like, oh man, like this, you know, this, like, why do I keep on doing this? You know, what am I getting out of this? You'll have those moments, right? But that is required for you to understand the opposite side of that, right? The side where you're like, oh wow, like, you know, this is really working out for me. I love what I do. I'm grateful that I'm in the position I'm in right now, right? You have to go through these waves of emotions to be more appreciative of the highs. How do you know the highs if you don't have certain lows, right? You know, look, even when we're planting, right? You see the plant, and you know, thinking on the universal perspective, we're the same way, right? Sometimes you're going and your cup is full to the point where you've exceeded where you are presently, and you need to expand, right? So we see repotting happening, right? So you'll see a plant is in a pot, and it grows, and now it's too big for that pot. It cannot really grow anymore. The roots want to continue to expand. So you go and you have to repot it into a bigger pot. And then it grows even more. And then from there, you got to repot it, or maybe put it outside, right? Where it can really grow and get its full potential. So the same thing with us. Maybe you're in a space right now where, you know, you've fully grown to that space and you need to expand, right? So maybe a new opportunity will present to you that allows you to expand to that next level that you wanted to expand to, right? And, you know, I honestly, truly believe that the map book offers that to people. Because with the map book, we're applying the law of creation, we're applying the law of action, and we're applying space, right? All of the ideas, all of the thoughts, all the desires, everything that it is that you want to do, the map book allows you to transfer it into that. It allows you to grow. It's like a bigger pot that is allowing you to expand, right? It allows you to fill your thoughts, your mind, everything. You fill it out, because now, as we're talking about, like with the desk, right, and clearing that and getting that replenishment, think about your mind and all the thoughts that you have going on, and everything that's racing in your head, all these different things that are going in your head. You're going to keep it all there. Sometimes, of course, you're going to feel overwhelmed, but if you could release it, and transfer it into your map book, right, and give yourself that clarity, that replenishment, right, then it's like it's a rejuvenation that you get, that you're able to transfer all these thoughts that you're just holding in your mind. You're able to transfer them now, and now you have them in your map book. They're still there, but you've released them from the space in your mind, right? And the map book, the entire thing is full of space. The entire map book is full of space, right? And it's for you to extract the space that's in your mind, and it still is part of your mind because it's a mind assistance program, right? And it's a form of meditation, because with meditation, what you're doing is you're expanding your mind, you're connecting with source, you're allowing for these thoughts and everything to be clear and replenish. You get replenished of new direction, right? And we see over here, I have the image of your iCloud storage, right? Because in your storage, you're going and your phone it gets full, right? So this storage allows you to store this stuff somewhere so that you can have more space to take more pictures or whatever it is that you want to do, right? And that's what the law of attraction is, right? Because we're being attracted to all that we want, right? But sometimes we miss certain things because we're full. The storage is full, and we're not able to see the things that are being attracted to us. Something could be right in front of your face, and you're supposed to be on doing this, but you may miss it because of everything else that's clouding it, right? That's the importance of space. And so that's pretty much what we're going in on with this GPS session, right? So that's the end of the presentation, but I would like for us to expand a bit more. So anyone on here, if you can, please just give some final words, some final thoughts, help us expand on this. Rahel.
Yeah. I like this whole concept. I've never thought about it that way, and now I'm a reflector. So whenever I receive information, it takes me time to kind of process and make connections. But I'm thinking about space in my home. I'm thinking about how I can make mental space just through meditation. Like I never thought about it as making space. So just making those connections, I'm gonna be more accountable to myself to make sure I meditate more consistently and just give my mind that mental space. And I've been thinking about just shutting off my cell phone like at certain times and hours of the day to make space. So for me, it's just now application. I'm in application mode. How do I take this and apply it to my everyday life? So that's where I'm at.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
Francisca.
Yes. Okay, for about the space, well, we need space. In everything in life, you need space. You don't want to overcrowd your life or overcrowd things. Always give space and give yourself a break. Some of us work so hard, we don't sleep well at nights, but you should take naps in the daytime if you can. Everybody needs space. It could be personal space or public space or intimate space. We always have to think of space.
I like that one when you talk about taking a nap. Definitely, That's something that I've adapted a little bit more. And it is very refreshing. It is very refreshing.
As a matter of fact, there are some companies such as Apple and Google, they have sleep pods where their employees are supposed to take a 20-minute nap. Oh. You heard what I said, Richard?
Yeah. Sorry, cool. Say that again.
Okay, there's some companies like Apple and Google. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
There are some companies like Apple and Google where they have sleeping pods for their employees and they have to take a 20-minute to 30-minute nap. That's part of their day.
Yeah. I heard about that.
True story, true. I didn't make it up.
And they do it because they feel that their employees are more efficient when they get those naps.
Of course, because after the nap, they're more productive and more alert.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Carol?
Yeah, right now I'm looking at space as from starting this conversation. I have been like looking at my space and saying all the things around me. I never thought of it till when we're talking now. I realize I really do have a lot of stuff pile up here and pile up there. I never thought of it. Like you need not only mental space but physical space. And I'm just I kind of I got up and just start clear up stuff and have the phone and the speaker because I'm like really, yeah, I'm clustered. I'm cluttered. I never thought of it.
That's deep.
The difference with the space, mental space and physical space, and just space. And you allow yourself drain and then refilled.
Yep.
Never thought of it. Never really thought of it. I really thank you. I never thought of it at all.
Thank you. Right? Because you're on the GPS session, and that's the thing. The GPS session is not even a session without everyone attending. So you being on here is what allowed us to expand on this, right? That's so I appreciate you actually taking it in, and yes, going and clearing that space. So what you're going to realize is that internally is a reflection of what's external. So you clearing that space externally, you're going to realize internally you're going to clear your mind too.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Chat.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Any final words?
I think all of us need space for us to have time to think, time to breathe from all the stress that we encounter every day. And that's all.
All right, thank you so much. Mylin?
Overall space is a must, especially for us, a person, because this will help us to work on our day-to-day life, just like I said a while ago. Yeah.
I couldn't really hear you, sorry.
Yeah, overall, we have to have a space, especially in our day-to-day lives, because this is essential, especially I like, for example, meditation. Meditation will help us to continue and serve on our path while working, while dealing with our day-to-day life.
Yes.
Like that.
Thank you for sharing that, and definitely that's a great way to finalize on, because in our lives there's so much that's going on that if we're just going out, then we're kind of in a sense on autopilot. You're not really in control, right? Because you're more on a reacting state if you're just because if you get up and let's say you get up and then you look at you, okay, you missed a call. You're gonna call that person back. Person's gonna say, oh, hey, I need you to do this. Then that's going to make you go do, maybe you have to go on your computer, you got to send something. Then when you send something on your computer and you see email, you're going to respond to that email. And then from there, then you got to go here. Then your friend or your partner or someone's telling you to do something. Then you got to go there. Then your kids got to get you, make you go here. Then you got to go there, and then the day's done. You haven't gave yourself space. You haven't gave yourself that time to really be in control of your life, right? And that's why with the map book tool, we say read it 2 times a day, because what you're doing is you're giving yourself that space. When I read my map book, just like Mylin said, I'll put my phone on silent and I'll put it face down, because the phone goes off every second, right? So I'll put it face down. Whoever's calling me, I'm sure if I call them back in 5 minutes, nothing has been lost, right? So I'll go in, read my map book, go inside, and after I can go out in this rug. And as I go in the rug, I'm very intentional. I'm very intentional because I'm more in control of my day, right? Than just on a reaction basis, right? So definitely meditation is really important, right? And that's something that we should do. Give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. There's over 1,600 minutes a day. So if all these minutes are in a day, for you to give yourself 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, you're not missing anything. What you're actually doing is you're giving yourself that space. Thank you, everyone, for being on the GPS session. We appreciate you. And yes, tune in every week. Let's continue to grow this network. Let's continue to expand our minds. All right? God bless.
Okay, bye everyone. Thanks, Richard. Have a great day.
Richard. I need to
Okay,
talk
bye.
to you, Richard.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right.
Richard, can you stay on?
We'll talk on the phone. I got to come off on here, okay? Because it's recording.
Okay, all right then. Okay.